What if I told you that being called the king of the jungle isn't all it's cracked up to be? Now, imagine being born a lion, majestic, fierce, the very symbol of freedom and power. But instead of roaming the vast savanna, you're pacing in circles inside a tiny enclosure while tourists gawk and kids throw popcorn at you. It sounds more like a royal tragedy than a noble reign, doesn't it? Here's a fun thought. Lions in zoos don't even have a jungle to rule over. They're more like the kings of the grass patch. Ever wondered what that must feel like? How does a lion, built for the wild, survive the monotony of captivity? And what's going on in that big feline brain when it stares out through the bars? Stick around, because we're diving into the bizarre and sometimes downright depressing reality of being born as a lion in a zoo. And trust me, by the end of this, you might start seeing zoos and lions in a whole new light. Let's start with what lions are supposed to be. In the wild, they're apex predators, rulers of the plains, and the stars of countless documentaries narrated by soothing British accents. They roam up to 100 square miles in search of food, water, and the occasional fight to defend their territory. But a zoo lion? Their territory is smaller than the average backyard. Forget ruling. They're barely managing to keep themselves entertained. Think about it. What's a lion's day like in the wild? Hunt, nap, socialize, nap some more, and maybe sneak up on an antelope for dinner. In a zoo, it's more like sleep, stare at tourists, maybe bat a ball around if they're lucky, and wait for dinner to be handed to them. It's like going from being the CEO of a Fortune 500 company to working in a cubicle with no Wi-Fi. Imagine being born with the potential to write epic novels, only to be stuck proofreading grocery lists. That's the wild to zoo transition for a lion. In the wild, lions' meals are an adventure. They're chasing prey, coordinating with their pride, and using every ounce of their strength and cunning. In a zoo, they get chunks of meat tossed into their enclosure at 3 p.m. sharp, like some kind of feline cafeteria line. Sure, it's reliable, but where's the fun in that? Imagine if your every meal was a microwave TV dinner. Sure, it fills you up, but after a while, you'd miss the thrill of cooking or eating out. For lions, hunting isn't just about food. It's about exercise, instinct, and survival. Take that away, and you've got a bored, frustrated animal with nothing to do but glare at the tourists. Hunting also gives lions a sense of accomplishment. Without it, it's like a human working a job where the only task is to press a single button, day after day. No challenge, no growth, just monotony. Here's a depressing fact. Animals in captivity often develop something called zoochosis. It's a fancy term for, well, losing their minds. Ever seen a lion pacing back and forth, over and over again? That's not them practicing for a marathon. It's a sign of extreme stress and boredom. Imagine being trapped in your bedroom for years with nothing to do except rearrange your furniture. Eventually, you'd go a little stir-crazy too. And it's not just pacing. Some lions develop weird habits like over-grooming or even chewing on their own tails. It's like when humans binge-watch bad reality TV out of sheer boredom, only sadder. Lions are creatures of action, of purpose. When that's stripped away, they're left with a mental void that no amount of enrichment toys can fill. Lions are social creatures. In the wild, they live in prides and have complex relationships. They play, hunt, and even squabble like any big family. But in zoos, they're often isolated or stuck with lions they didn't choose to live with. It's like being forced to share a tiny apartment with a roommate you don't like. Sure, they're both lions, but that doesn't mean they're going to get along. And what about cubs born in zoos? They never get to experience the thrill of their first hunt or the joy of running through the grasslands. Instead, they're raised in artificial environments where their biggest challenge is figuring out how to play with a rubber ball. It's the difference between a child growing up in a vibrant, multicultural city versus a town with one stoplight. The potential for growth, exploration, and learning is stunted before it even begins. Here's where it gets complicated. Zoos often argue that they're helping to save endangered species. And yes, some zoos do great work with breeding programs and reintroducing animals to the wild. But let's be real, most zoo lions aren't part of those programs. They're bred to live and die in captivity, where their primary purpose is to entertain humans. Conservation? More like lion-themed reality TV. Sure, it raises awareness, but at what cost? The lions are stuck in an endless cycle of captivity, with no real hope of returning to their natural habitat. It's like saying you're helping a plant grow by keeping it in a tiny pot on your windowsill. It's alive, sure, but it'll never reach its full potential. Let's flip the script for a moment. As visitors, we're fascinated by lions. We pay good money to see them up close, to marvel at their beauty and power. But have you ever stopped to wonder what they see when they look back at us? To a lion, we're just a parade of weirdly dressed primates with phones glued to our faces. And those selfies with the lion we're so proud of? The lion probably thinks, great, another tourist. Smile and wave, and maybe they'll leave me alone. We may think we're connecting with nature, but in reality, we're just reinforcing a system that prioritizes our entertainment over an animal's well-being. The lion doesn't care about your Instagram likes. It just wants a life worth living. At the heart of it, the issue isn't just about lions in zoos. It's about how we, as humans, treat the natural world. Zoos are a reflection of our desire to control and display nature for our own benefit. But maybe it's time to ask ourselves, is the price worth it? Are we really educating people, or are we just putting nature behind bars? Imagine a world where conservation efforts focused on preserving habitats rather than caging animals, where we invested in protecting the wild spaces that lions call home instead of building bigger, fancier enclosures. That's the kind of future we should strive for. So, what do you think? Does being born a lion in a zoo sound like a royal life to you, or more like a life sentence? The next time you visit a zoo, take a moment to really look at the animals and think about what their lives might be like. Are we doing them justice, or just satisfying our own curiosity? Lions deserve to be kings and queens, not prisoners. Let's start thinking about how we can make their lives, and all captive animals' lives, better. Because the wild isn't just where they belong, it's where they thrive. Now, here's a thought. If lions could talk, what do you think they'd say about us? Leave your wildest guesses in the comments below. And hey, maybe it's time we humans took a little more responsibility for the jungle we've created.